Hey folks, welcome back to the Do It Yourself Dad channel. Today we're going to be putting a smart lock on the front door to my house. Now this smart lock is pretty cool because you can unlock it with your thumb. You can also get into it with your phone, see who else is coming in and out of the house, give people extra codes, all sorts of kind of neat stuff to make things a little bit more easy at the front door. Now it's made by a company called Eufy, and I've got a bunch of their other stuff around the house. You can see up there I've got one of their cameras right next to the front door. I've got one over the driveway, side yard, backyard, and in the garage. Now every single time I put up a video about security cameras or security products, somebody always comments, if you need all that stuff, move to a safer neighborhood. Truth is, I live in one of the safest neighborhoods in the entire country. I'm just a nerd and I like technology, so that's why I got all this stuff. Do I need it? No. But I like playing around with this stuff, so it's fun. Let's check out this lock though that we're gonna be putting on the house. Now, something to note before you go and purchase one of these locks is you wanna have a door that has a separate deadbolt, and a deadbolt is this guy. So if you have a doorknob and a lock in the doorknob, but you don't have a separate deadbolt, you're gonna have to do some cutting into the door, and we're not gonna do that in this video, but I will have a link down below if you do need to do that to show you how to cut a hole and the little pin guy into the door and into the frame. But right now we're gonna just deal with a door that already has one of these installed that we'll be replacing. Now I have a rule of never doing unboxing videos on this channel. I'm gonna break that rule a little bit today, and that's just because of how this thing is packaged. It's packaged in a way that should help you actually with the install. So don't pull everything out of the box immediately when you get it. It's got the manual right there and some packaging, but then when you get down into it, you'll notice everything has a step. Step 5, step 3, and then when you get underneath it, step 1, 2, 5, 6, 4. So it has everything broken up into steps. So don't unpackage everything all in one shot. You want to go into here first and get the instructions out, but you actually don't really need this because all of the instructions are actually in your phone. Now, if you haven't already gone and downloaded the Eufy app, you're definitely going to want to do that. Everything is set up through the app. So we're going to start the app up here and jump into My Devices. And from here, you can go all the way down to the bottom and add our new device. You're going to scan the QR code. The QR code is hidden inside the battery compartment right there. And with the QR code scanned, it'll actually have a video, a step-by-step guide on how to install your door lock. But I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick, and then we can jump into the next step. So like I mentioned before, I'm showing you how to do an install with an existing deadbolt. Now, if you need to do all this cutting yourself, I'm gonna have a video linked down below that'll show you how to cut all the holes to do this. But we're gonna start by just removing the deadbolt. Now, most of these should have 2 screws right here. You can start by loosening them up. And at this point, it's best to open up the door a little bit so you can support the backside so things don't fall to the ground. Then you should be able to remove the back and then the front off your door. Now in the case of my door, I also have this piece on the outside that's stuck on a little bit. We're gonna have to pop that off a little bit later. But right now we're gonna remove the deadbolt itself. This should be held on by 2 screws. And the entire piece should just slide right out. So next step is installing our new deadbolt. You will notice it says top on there. Make sure that it is going in correct, that is actually facing upwards. And if it does not line up in the middle, refer to your instructions. There is a way to actually elongate this thing so it sits in there correctly. Now here's something pretty neat that came with the lock. It actually comes with 2 strike plates, and that's because one of the strike plates here, you'll notice, has 4 holes in it. And that is, this is a reinforcement plate. It has longer screws that'll go all the way back into the frame of the door. Now this strike plate is not necessary, but it does make the whole thing a lot stronger than if you were just gonna use this one. I'm also not entirely sure if you have to replace this one at all. So I'm actually gonna skip this step right now to see if you actually have to replace it. And if the thing doesn't work correctly, then we'll go back and change this. Now we're going to install the outside portion of the door lock. The cable is going to go underneath, and that little piece of metal is going to slide through a slot in the bolt. That is what's actually going to go back and forth and open and close the bolt. Now we can turn our attention to the inside and put on the mounting plate. Now the nice thing about how this mounting plate is set up is you don't actually have to screw the mounting plate to the door and cut any new holes. It just attaches with these long bolts that go through. If you notice a little bit of blue on them, they actually have thread locker in there, which is a nice touch. Now while you're tightening it down, this thing will move around a bit, but when you do the final tightening of it, really torquing it down to the door, make sure this is nice and vertical and straight, especially if you have lines on the door. It'll be really obvious if it's not straight. Now once it's firmly mounted, you're going to mount the inside portion of the door lock. There is a place where the connectors connect on the back of the lock, so you're going to press that in place. Once you hear the click, this whole thing will slide in place and should sleeve really nicely in there. Now there is a little plunger that does have to fit onto that little metal piece that's coming through, so make sure everything is nice and lined up as you install it. If the door is unlocked, when you put it on there, make sure that the lock is in the unlocked position. Once it's all set up correctly, you can use the included hardware to screw the inside portion to the mounting plate. The top two screw holes on the mounting plate will be covered up with the battery and the top plate. The very bottom screw, however, does have a nice little rubber plug that you put in its place that covers up the hole. You can pull it back out later if you do need to get to it. Now with everything done, you put in that battery. Now, if you're watching this video and you haven't installed it yet, you might want to plug the battery in ahead of time and get it nice and charged up so you're ready to move on to the next step once the battery has been installed. Now it's time to hop back on your phone and do the setup. Now the setup is actually really easy. You just follow the on-screen prompts. You're going to start by hitting the little button on the front that starts the syncing process. It's going to first sync to your phone over Bluetooth. Then you'll do a calibration. Once the calibration is done, your lock is going to try to connect to your home network. So you're just going to have to connect to your network. You can see here my network's name is HAL. Leave a comment down below if you know where that little reference came from. And after it connects to your network, you can start the actual setup. Here we're going to pick the name, where ours is just going to be front door, but you can customize it with whatever you want. After you do that, you can pick your passcode, 4 to 8 digits. We're going to skip it so you don't get to see it. Do an update, and you're all done. So now with the install all done, it actually looks really nice and really clean in the door here. Let's play around with it and see how it works. Now I do have a link for these down in the description below if you want to check them out online, and the other Eufy cameras as well. So I have a link for these so you can pick one up if you... stumbling on words. So now with the install complete, you can check out both sides are nice and snug up against the door, and it really is a nice clean looking lock. Now I do have a link down in the description for these if you want to check that out. I also have a link to all the videos on the other Eufy products, the cameras that we've got down below if you want to check that stuff out as well. But let's play around with it. So now we're standing outside and I'm going to show you how to add people to the lock. If you've already added yourself, awesome. I'm going to show you how to add people to the lock and also add thumbprints to the lock. So you're going to go into the Locks app. We're going to go right back into Eufy Security and click on the app, not on the little gear. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another user, a test user, to show you how it works. We're going to add a new user and we're going to call this one Test. This obviously is not going to be the passcode I'm using for my house because I'm putting it all over YouTube and I don't want you in there. Here is where you're going to actually set up the thumbprint scan, which is another cool feature. So we're going to start the enrollment.
Start fingerprint setup.
We're going to hold our finger against the door. We're going to keep lifting and pressing. If you've ever set up like an iPhone or a phone with the thumbprint scanner, it's really the same process. We're now going to go around the edge of your finger.
Fingerprint setup complete.
And now we have that fingerprint setup complete. So now I should be able to come up to the door. The door is locked right now. Put my thumb against it. And open the door. Now you might be asking yourself, what if my hand gets chopped off? What if I get caught in a tragic belt sander accident? Well, you can come in here and you can also put in your passcode. And walk right in the door. So now let's explore on the app. I'll show you the other cool stuff you can do. Now the first thing to do is click on the app, but not on the little gear button. It'll pop open this screen. Now from this screen you can lock and unlock just by dragging. You can also check your lock events, which will show you every time the door has been opened or closed. And you can go into your manage access, and that's where you can add accounts. So if you want to add other people to it, you can also select when they can and can't come into the house. So this way, if you've got a pet sitter or a friend coming over, you can add them in here and give them a passcode. Now, if we back all the way back out and click on the little gear, it'll bring you into all the other settings for the lock. The first thing is the auto lock feature, and you can set up how long you want it to wait until it automatically locks. When you close the door, it'll remember to automatically lock it. We're going to set it out to 3 minutes in our house because we tend to go in and out. We don't want to get locked out if we're just running out to the car. Wrong try protection gives you the ability to set up how many times somebody can try to get in before it locks them out. We're going to set it up to 5 attempts, and you can also select how long the lockdown is. So after somebody tries 5 times on your code, it'll lock them out for 3 minutes. This means they can't just keep trying codes until they get in. The scramble passcode feature allows you to put in your passcode in any sequence, which is nice if you're in an area where your front door is visible and you don't want people seeing what your passcode is. It means you can change it every time. The lock sound, we're going to turn this off, but this announces when the lock has been opened or closed with that little speaker inside the house. I don't need that. It'll just wake up everybody in the house if I come home late. You can select whether you want notifications, and I'm going to select not right now because same thing, I just don't need to know when my family is coming in and out of the house. But if you do want to know when someone's coming over, maybe checking on a babysitter or a pet sitter when you're gone, you can set that up. Lock calibration, if you need to do any recalibrations, you can reset your internet connections, you can go back to the mounting guide, you can share the device, which I'll show you that real quick. This way you can invite other people to it and they can actually have this thing on their own app under their own profile if you want to go that route. And there's all the other information in here as well. So we've now had the lock set up here for a little over a week, and kind of what are my thoughts? So the lock, I love it. It's very responsive. You put your thumb on it and it pretty much reads it instantly. It's faster than even the thumb recognition I've had on my phones, which is really, really cool. The keypad is nice. The only thing I don't like is it's not reactive. So when you push it, it doesn't detent in and it doesn't vibrate or anything to let you know that it picked it up, but it does pick it up every time. So it just took a little bit of getting used to, but I've gotten used to it and I like that. One thing I've learned about it though is when I initially set it up, I only put my right thumb on the thumbprint scanner, and then I walked up to my house the other day and I had a bunch of stuff in my right hand, and my left thumb I hadn't programmed in. So when you're programming this thing, your right thumb and your left thumb, program them in separately. It'll let you put in multiple fingerprints per user, but that way you won't run into that. You got a bunch of stuff in your arms and whatnot. There's one other thing that I forgot to show in the setup of the video, and that's these. I always wondered what happens with these smart locks if everything fails. The electric, something goes wrong with the lock, or something, goes haywire with the electrical system inside it. This one actually came with keys, and let me show you, because these are pretty cool little keys. Let me show you how they work. So I'm gonna try to get the camera to focus on the key here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's indentations inside the key. So the key from every other angle just looks like a piece of metal, but the actual key code is stored in there. And this is how it works. This thing is a magnetic plate. It's kind of hard to get off, but you get it off, swing it out of the way, and then you insert the key in, and you can unlock your door or lock your door. So if the whole thing fails, the battery dies or whatever, and you didn't realize it, there's still a set of keys. So you can hide one of these around your yard, keep it on your keychain. It's got to get inside. The one other issue that I was worried about was what happens if your Wi-Fi goes down? Does this thing rely on the internet to lock and unlock? So what I did was I turned the Wi-Fi off on my house, so it has no connection to the internet right now, and we're gonna go give it a shot and make sure that this thing still works, because that is a concern if you're in a place where the internet goes up and down. You don't want to get locked out of your house because of an internet outage. So like I said, I have no internet hooked up. We're gonna come straight over to the lock here. And there you go, it just locked itself. And it just unlocked itself. So it does work even if the internet goes out. And because this thing isn't connected to anything else, it'll work even if the power is out. The only thing it won't do if the internet is out is you won't be able to lock and unlock it from your phone, which shouldn't really be an issue if you're right here. You just won't be able to let somebody else into your house if you're remote and want to open it up. But you wouldn't be able to do that anyway if you didn't have a smart lock, so not that big of a deal. Now, the battery that they have in this thing is rechargeable. It's a big lithium battery pack. You saw at the beginning, it's blue, and it charges with a USB cable. You just stick the USB cable in the back of the battery and charge it up. Now, Eufy claims this battery is good for a full year, 365 days, and I'd be skeptical of that, except I've got these cameras up here, and those are year-long batteries. Now, I haven't had those up for a year. It's been more like 6 months, but I'm less than halfway through those batteries. So if they're telling me those are gonna last a year, and they're lasting a year, and they say these ones last a year depending upon traffic, and I have it right by my front door, so it's constantly getting walked and activating and turning on the IR lights. It's still going to last a year, so I'm inclined to believe him about the door. But if anything changes with that, or if anything changes with the lock, or we start having issues, I will put it down in the comments below, and I also always put stuff like that in the pinned comment as well. So if this video helped you out at all, please go down below and give it a thumbs up, and of course hit the subscribe button, because I always have good stuff like this coming your direction. And leave me a comment. Let me know what kind of stuff you're working on in the house, or what kind of stuff you would like help with. And of course, thanks for watching. Why would you need a smart lock? Why is that plane flying overhead and screwing up my audio? Who knows?